So our next assignment is called a Polaroid collage, and we're going to be using clipping masks, which I don't know if we've used before or not. I can't remember. But we're going to be using clipping masks, multiple layers, which we've used before, one small, easy layer style, and folders, which we've never used before in this lesson, to create an image that looks like multiple Polaroids thrown on top of each other to create one image. You're going to do two images, one image of the monkey that I give you and another image that you go on the internet and find yourself. So this is an example of what a student did last year of an image they found themselves. This is one example of a photo that a student did last year. Here's another image from the internet that a student did. Your second image can be anything you'd like it to be. The student chose a little dog. This student did a very clever use of their Polaroids, the way that they turned them, accentuating the heads, the faces of the characters in their own little individual Polaroids, with the body just being a mess of them. And this student did a group of wolves, making sure that when they moved their Polaroids around, they kept the heads, and really giving some thought to placement of the Polaroid to make sure that none of the heads were cut off. So those are some of the things to think about when you start doing your own image, which is the second image you need to do. To start this project, we need to open our monkey picture in Photopea. So double click on it in Google Classroom to open up the preview. Then click on the three dots over here for more actions and choose Open in New Window. Then when it opens in New Window, you'll have the download option to download the picture here. Again, if you have the option with Open with Photopea, you're going to want to take that option as it's the easiest one to use. But if you don't, you can download it here and then open it from your computer. So the first thing we want to do when we get our image into Photopea is make a copy of the background. We don't want to make any changes directly on this background copy because we're going to be using it often. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click on it and duplicate the layer so that I have background and background copy. So the next thing I want to do is add a new layer between background and background copy. So I'm going to go up to Layer, New Layer, and make sure that that layer is between the two. Now, in order to do that, I clicked on my background layer to make sure that when I put in a new layer, it was between the two. I'm going to rename this layer Black. Then I'm going to change my foreground color over here to black. And I can do that a couple of different ways. I can click on it and then choose black. Or, since I'm only going to be using black and white for this whole thing, I can just click on this D, and it'll make, that's for the default, it'll make my foreground black and my background white. Then that's the easiest thing, easiest way to do it. Now that I've got black as my foreground color, I can go ahead and click on my gradient tool so I can bring up my paint bucket. Make sure my black layer is the chosen layer and is active, and paint bucket that layer. Now you won't see it because you have your background copy still visible. If I turn that off, I can see there's my entire black layer. I can also see that my thumbnail over here has changed black. Now I need to make another layer, this time between black and my background copy. So I'm going to go back to Layer, New Layer. I'm going to change this one and call it Visible. This is going to create a portion of the photo that is visible while the rest of it is blank. With my visible layer selected, I need to make a a square in the middle of the photo. So I'm going to choose my rectangular marquee tool, rectangle select tool. And in order to keep it as a square, so we want these to look like Polaroids. And if you've seen a Polaroid before, the color picture part of the Polaroid is actually a square, while the area around it is a rectangle. So to keep this as a square, I'm going to hold my Shift key down and draw a square shape. And you'll get the little marching ants around it. Size is not so important. You don't want it too big, but you don't want it too small. Just kind of a nice, good shaped square. Now that I've made my square, I want to fill it with black. So I'm going to click on my visible, make sure that my square is still highlighted here, go back to my paint bucket and fill it with black. Now you won't see it because layer 1, background copy, is still visible. If I turn that off and turn off my black layer, now you can see it. And next I want to click on my background copy, right click and choose clipping mask. That will make everything around the black square that's on the visible layer disappear, and it will only show what is underneath that black rectangle visible, which is just this part of my picture. Deselect by going to select, deselect, and that will get rid of your marching ants. Now we want to draw the border around our photo. I'm going to click on the black layer and add another layer above it, another new layer above it by going to Layer, New Layer. I'm going to call this one Border. And I'm going to draw another rectangle around this one. Now when I draw this one, I want it to stay a rectangle. I want it to sort of be the same size around the top and the sides, but I want it to be a little longer on the bottom. So when Polaroids were used, people would write information on the bottom, and it was also a place to hold the photo while they were being developed. So they had more of a rectangular shape with a little bit of extra space at the bottom. Now I want to fill this with white. I'm going to make sure my border layer is selected, and I want to make my foreground white. Currently it's black. So I'm going to click on this little arrow right here. That's going to switch them around. Now when I click on my paint bucket, I can drop the white in there. And it will fill that space with white. And I've got my Polaroid. Now this is looking a little flat. Polaroids aren't flat. So I'm going to select, deselect, get rid of what's called the marching ants. Making sure I'm still clicked on border, I'm going to double click it and bring up our layer styles, which we've used a lot in our last assignment, a couple assignments ago. Pretty familiar with this one. Fortunately for this assignment, the only one we're using is drop shadow. So I'm going to click on drop shadow, make sure it's checked, make sure the actual drop shadow words are selected, and drop shadow pops up here. My opacity goes to 40%, my angle goes to 30, the distance goes to 5, and the size goes to 5. Okay, so those are the only changes that I make, and I click OK. Now I won't see these changes right now. We'll see them in future steps, but there is a shadow on there now. Now we want our final photo to look like we've thrown a pile of Polaroids onto a tabletop. So we don't want our Polaroids to all be straight. So holding down the Control key on my computer, I'm going to click on Visible and Border so that they are both selected at the same time. Edit, Free Transform. Now don't worry about the fact that it's selecting the entire layer. It won't affect our plans. So I'm going to click on the corner. Notice how that the cursor has changed to a curve, and I'm going to turn it just a little. And you'll notice that the border and the actual picture, the black part turned, but the monkey behind it didn't. Okay, so I'm going to click OK on that. And I have my first photo done. Now I want to hold my control key down again and add my background copy into it. So I now have background copy, visible, and border, all darker. So they're all selected together. I want to group these photos together. So to do that, I can go down here and click on this little folder, which is New Folder. I can go to Layer and choose Group Layers, which I think is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and click Group Layers. And it's now called Folder 1, which is fine. It can be called Folder 1. Next thing I want to do is duplicate this folder. So I'm going to right click on it and duplicate the layer. This will create folder 1 copy. Now that I have duplicated my copy, I've got folder 1 copy, I'm going to go ahead and open it up by clicking on this little triangle. I want to choose visible and border because we're going to move those 2 layers. I do not want to check background copy. I just want visible and border. I'm going to click on the move tool and I want to make sure that this auto select right here is unchecked. If it's checked, it will cause you a world of hurt. Make sure it is unchecked. Now, when I click on my image, I can click on this part and I can drag those 2 somewhere else. And you'll notice that as I do so, the new part of the monkey underneath is revealed. Wherever I move it, it's showing me the picture that was clipped to it, this background copy that was clipped to it. So I want to turn this part too, because again, we don't want them all the same direction. So with visible and border still chosen, I'm going to go to File again, Edit, Free Transform, and I'm going to turn it a different direction. And click OK. So now I have 2 Polaroid pictures revealing 2 parts of the monkey. I'm going to go back to folder 1 copy, right click on it, duplicate it, open it up, click on visible and border, make sure I'm still on my move tool, auto select is still unchecked, and I'm going to move it somewhere else. I want to turn it again, so I'm going to go to Edit, Free Transform, and turn my picture. And I'm going to keep doing this same step over and over again. Going to my folder, duplicating the folder, opening the folder, clicking visible and border, moving them somewhere, and rotating them around until my photo is revealed. So I'm just going to keep doing that a few more times, making sure that my angles are not all exactly the same. So I moved this one and it's pretty close to that angle, so I'm going to have to move it just a slight bit back. Now it's too close to that one. So it takes, the more layers you get on there, the more you have to fiddle with your layers to get them so that they're not always the same angle. And I'm going to keep doing that until the majority of my photo is revealed. I don't want it all revealed. I want to keep some of my black background, but I want to get the main part of it revealed. So I'm going to do this probably 3 or 4 more times and fill in. I need to get something out of here. I need to get the monkey down here, and keep going through until I get the photo visible. And I want to make sure when I'm doing that, if I create another layer, I don't hide the monkey's face. The monkey's face is important. It needs to be a top layer. Okay, so if I needed to, if I accidentally covered the monkey's face, I could rearrange my layers if I had to get them visible the way I wanted it. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing this until I have, I'll probably put one more here, I'll put one more over here, I'll put another one down here. Now I'm going to do this assignment. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to, of course, save it as a PSD, attach my PSD to the assignment. Then I'm going to go onto the internet, find a photo that I want to use, my own photo, not the photo that's been given to me, and do this one more time for a total of 2 photos. One, the monkey that I give you, and one of your own.